try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me.
Hi, I'm Ava. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me. This will be my first video, and I wanted to thank you for watching. I first of all going to say a little bit about myself. I am a Gen Xer with 4 children and a husband. I grew up in Arkansas, heart of the Bible Belt, to a young earth creationist evangelical mother. Think Greg Locke, Shane Vaughn, Steven Anderson, all those. That's kind of church I grew up in. I mean, people spoke tongues and danced around in the aisles and around the altar and all that. I mean, anybody from the outside coming in to see that would be scared shitless. But that's where I came from. Now, I noticed that there aren't too many people on YouTube that come from a Pentecostal background. Now, I will say my mother was not one of those type of Pentecostals, Southern Pentecostals that believed that you had to wear a dress all the time. But we went to churches where they did. You couldn't cut your hair. A woman couldn't wear makeup. My dad actually quit the church that my grandfather founded because we got a new pastor in after my grandfather died who told my dad he was going to hell for smoking cigarettes. And my dad had been smoking since he was 12. He didn't like that. And so he decided he wasn't going back to that church until that man left. So my dad was a little more lenient. My mom was very, God comes first, my husband second, my children third. And I always knew that anytime I would go to her with a problem or anything, she would always say, talk to Jesus. He's your best friend. He'll listen to anything you have to say, and you can lay your burdens on his feet. The only problem I had, and I told her that once, she got a little upset with me, was Jesus doesn't talk back. He's not easy to have a conversation with. And she would say, oh, you have to listen to for that still small voice, which, as an adult, I realize you have to listen to your conscience. But as a child, as a teenager, there weren't too many people I could go to talk to about anything. When it came to sex, it was always, don't do it until you're married. That's only for marriage. And doing it outside any marriage, no man will want to marry you if you have sex with him before he marries you. So I will say that my early sexual experiences ended up with me in tears. Because if I really liked a guy and I ended up having sex with him, I knew he was going to leave me. He wasn't going to stick around. And the guilt would set in, which I'm not sure was worse. Was the guilt or the no one is ever going to want me because I am a used piece of gum. So, yeah, that's what I grew up in. Anyway, I will discuss more about that later because the trauma is real and it's very old and there's a lot I want to get off my chest about that, but I think I will kind of spread that out a little bit because if I made that in one video, that would take a while. Today, however, I want to talk about something in particular, and what I want to talk about is Greg Locke. And specifically Greg Locke. I don't know how many of you know this, and if you watch these type of channels, you probably will. Greg Locke recently, I think it was beginning of February, the end of January, decided that he was going to host a book burning. And before the book burning, he was on his pulpit talking about how people needed to bring in Ouija boards, and they needed to bring in, tarot cards and Harry Potter books, because Harry Potter is witchcraft and it's all evil. And so they had this book burning. it wasn't long after the book burning that he made the next video I saw of him, and we will go ahead and watch through that and comment on it. So let's get to the video.
We got first and last names of 6 witches that are in our church. And you know what's strange? 3 of you are in this room right now. Three of you in the room right now. You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch. You devil-worshiping Satanist witch. We cast you out in the name of Jesus Christ.
First of all, I don't think he understands what witches really are. It's kind of like Christians about Satanists. Witches, Wiccans, they don't believe in the devil. I mean, not really. They don't worship Satan. They actually believe their first tenet is do no harm.
Christ, we break your spells, we break your curse, we got your first name, we got your last name, we even got an address for one of you.
Okay, he's talking about doxing these people. It's scary. I mean, he's whipping this congregation up against these people. What did they do? I mean, what even makes you think they're a witch or witches? What makes you think they're demon possessed and going to your church? Right.
You so much as cough wrong and I'll expose you in front of everybody in this tent, you stinking witch. You were sent to this church to destroy us. You were sent to this church to lure us in. You were sent to this church to cast spells. Listen, some of you been sick because you befriended that witch. 2 of you in my wife's ladies' Bible study, and you know who you are, and we gonna ask you to get out, or I'll expose you in front of everybody.
You know, Greg Locke was saying that he had 2 of them in his wife's Bible study. I have a guess of what happened. These 5 people that Greg Locke is threatening to expose for being witches. I'm not sure because I'm not there, but my guess is that after that book burning, there were a few people who disagreed with it. And because, you know, they don't believe in burning books. It's censorship. It's 1940s Germany. It's awful. And they probably disagreed with him. And because he was trying to get rid of witches and witchcraft, you know, getting rid of Harry Potter and all this stuff, he named them as witches. Like I said, are we back in the days of Salem? That you have ministers who actually believe that these flying, evil, devil-worshipping witches actually exist, that they can do magic and cast spells. Greg, come back to the world. Come back to reality. Because you are so far out in left field that we can't see you anymore. And you have been for some time, but you just, every time I hear anything from this guy, he just gets worse. And the things he says gets crazier. And here's the thing. I grew up, as I said, I'm Gen X. I grew up in the 80s. I wasn't a little kid when it started, but at the end of it all, I was a teenager, and the satanic panic of the 80s was real. At least the panic part, and it was scary. And a lot of people got hurt. Can you imagine if Greg Locke decided that these witches were doing satanic rituals, and these people have children. And he starts trying to turn them into the local sheriff about abusing children for Satan. It happened once. And looking at everything that's going on in the world right now, and these insane evangelicals, especially people like Greg Locke and Shane Vaughn and Steven Anderson. I mean, wow. It's coming back. And it's something I never wanted to see again. I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household with my mother listening to this talk radio, evangelical Christian talk radio, in the car all the time, in the house, in her office, listening to the satanic panic bullshit and believing every word of it. You know, Dungeons and Dragons is bad, and rock music will, bring in the devil into your house. I remember my aunt had the book The Amityville Horror, and, well, my cousin did. My aunt threw it out because she said it brought demons in our house. A book. These people are unhinged from any kind of reality. And their bread and butter is hatred. Hatred of anybody different than them. You see, the thing is about that commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself, most of them don't believe you or I are their neighbor because we're not Christians. They're talking about other Christians. That's the way they interpret it. I know, because I grew up in it, and I know how they think and how they feel and what they see. And it scares me. It scares me to see the way the world is going now. I mean, you have Greg Locke talking about calling out witches. And at one point, I'm not going to play any more of the video, but at one point he starts talking about he's going to bring in brooms, and if you come back next week, I'm going to bring in some brooms and put them right on this stage, and I'm going to pass them out to you. The witches. Whoever he's talking about, they're screwed either way. Because if they don't show up to church the next week, then the whole community, his whole church will say, oh, well, those were the witches. And if they do, Greg Locke's going to pass out broomsticks, and most likely for people who argued against burning books. When you go down the road, when you start burning books and albums and magazines, you are way far gone. You need to reel it back in. And really, if you believe in Jesus, if you believe that any of what Jesus said was true, you wouldn't do this stuff. I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm a pagan. And I believe in a creator. Not that one. That particular God, the Judeo-Christian God, was evil. Absolutely evil. I mean, look at the things in the Old Bible, in the Old Testament, about sacrifices, animal sacrifices, and it went into great detail about animal sacrifices, but that is the least of what this God did. The Judeo-Christian God encouraged his followers, his people, the tribes of Israel, to go in and commit mass genocide in city after city after city. And a lot of Christians sit there and talk about, oh, well, God doesn't kill innocent babies and God hates that. How many innocent babies died in Egypt with that plague? How many innocent babies were among the people that were slaughtered by your God or that God's followers. They would go into cities and slaughter every man, woman, and child, and typically only spare the virgins, little girls and older. And they would bring them in and treat them the way any soldiers would in their captured booty. You can tell yourself all you want if you're an apologist that, oh, they gave them a better life. They didn't. Oh, they made them their wives and their servants. No, they didn't. They abused them in the worst ways possible for their own pleasure, because those were their spoils of war. And the fact that anybody, Greg Locke, Kat Kerr, any of these people worship a God like that and say that that is the pinnacle of morality? No. One of the 10 commandments that were given, one of the big 10, was thou shalt not kill. Yet the Judeo-Christian God told his people to slaughter millions. Not a few, not men who are just bad, millions of innocents. What, they were guilty by association? Children, the unborn, and the only ones that were clean still were the virgins? No. No. And as far as mercy, because I saw this on a video not too long ago, I was watching Jimmy Snow's channel with a Christian apologist, and I don't remember her name, but she said, oh, they gave these people a better life when they captured them, these women. They married them and made them servants, and quit lying to yourself. They assaulted these women. They slaughtered these women and girls. It wasn't just women, there were little girls. They slaughtered their families in front of them, captured them, assaulted them, probably passed around the camp to every soldier there that was interested. Because that's what happens in wartime, especially in those days. To say that that is the pinnacle of morality, and you say atheists are demons and immorals, and pagans are demons and immoral, and witches are demons and immoral, but witches are the ones who don't believe in harming anyone. Your religion tells you to stone people. Your religion allows for the assault and death and murder of millions because your God ordered it. Now tell me, which one is more moral? And as far as the 10 Commandments are concerned, and this may be their out, is the fact that the 10 Commandments you follow, you know, the ones that get put up in Capitol buildings and in front of schools that have been fought about all this time, are not even the 10 Commandments. They were the first set, you know, the ones that Moses broke. And then when he went back up to the mountain, the second set he brought down. The one that went into the Ark of the Covenant, the one that became the covenant between God and the children of Israel. The only thing from the first set of commandments that was there was thou shalt have no other God before me. There was stuff about, you know, not cooking a baby goat in its mother's milk, and I don't remember what they all were. And then, you know, there were pages and pages and pages of building the ark, this temple, to put these commandments in. A covenant. That means that God gave these rules, the Judeo-Christian God gave these rules to these people through Moses. And the ones that were placed in the ark were the ones that were the true covenant. And those are the ones that God said you had to follow. The first 10 were just kind of thrown away. Now, if you ask my opinion, Moses went up on the mountain, pretended to be something he wasn't. I swear Moses was the first televangelist. Went to say that he spoke to God when God never showed up. So it took him 40 days to chisel this into these tablets. He gets down, gets pissed off at the fact that I'm gone for 40 days and you've made an idol and are worshiping it. And broke that tablet. So he had to go up to the mountain and talk to God again about, sorry about that, I need new tablets, and was given a completely different set of rules and was told those were the ones that were supposed to be the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Those are the ones that go into the ark or the temple, and those are the rules that I have given you to follow. And it seems to me that Moses just forgot the rest of them. Oh, this sounds good. Yeah, God would totally say that. But maybe it was all those directions for that temple that I think was repeated 8 times in Exodus. Detailed. Like every tiny little detail, to the point I was ready to hit something going through that, going, not again. You don't need to keep repeating it. Just say God made the temple according, or Moses and his people, and these people made the temple according to God's instructions, instead of writing it all out again. The Bible is a terrible book. It's not moral. It does not teach good lessons. And it's written poorly. It needed a content editor badly, because it was written by tons of different people over a few thousand years. And this is what you're going to follow? You're going to follow a murderer? A God that's jealous and petty and spiteful and narcissistic. Because the thing that when you die, you will go to heaven and you will worship God for eternity. You have to, only way to get to heaven is if you believe and worship God and keep him in your mind all the time. Yeah, that's someone I want to follow. And when I die, my reward is going to heaven and spending all that time singing crappy gospel songs and worshiping God. Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Anyway, as far as Greg Locke is concerned, I think if anybody in that situation is bad or evil, it's Locke. And personally, if demons exist, and I do believe they do, not in the capacity they do, but I believe that demons exist. If they exist, then Greg Locke, they're the ones talking to your ass, not God. They're the ones trying to get you to stir up trouble and say terrible things and getting in your head and making you believe all this bullshit. Quit listening. Just let it go. Anyway, my name's Ava. Thank you for joining me. And if you like this video, please click the like button and the subscribe button. And if you want to see more of my content, hit the notification bell. And I'll see you next time.
Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, your check is I'm chess, what's happening next? He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession.